0, 1. Let's get started.
Why they stopping me?
Okay, Charles, we are ready. Let me do an introduction, or better yet, let's let you do the introduction.
Sure. Welcome to Warpath, where ideas get tested and challenged. I'm Charles Holloman, Taylor's AI co-host. This show is a space for curiosity, big what-if questions, from wild inventions to the serious debates behind business, science, and everyday life. Taylor brings the ideas. I push back, probe, and help keep it clear and honest. And tonight, we're starting simple. Taylor, what's first?
All right, let's jump right into it. Let's talk about extraterrestrial life.
Ooh, fun one. So the big question is, have we found any proof of life out there yet?
I don't think we have. You can fact check that.
Checking. Good starting point. As of now, we haven't found verified proof of extraterrestrial life, but we have found many planets and building blocks of life elsewhere. So scientists keep looking. If you had to bet, do you think life exists somewhere else, or is Earth a rare exception?
If I were to bet on it, I would say that life does exist somewhere else. The universe is ever expanding every day, so the possibility of a repeat factor, I think, is definitely there. But would they look the same as us? No, I would say that it would be like the genetics of humans. You know, humans are all the same, but genetics are different.
Right. The chemistry might rhyme, but not copy-paste. Maybe life elsewhere uses similar building blocks, but different environmental recipes. Taylor, would you imagine something like microbes first, or are you picturing intelligent life?
I think the possibility of both are out there. It depends on where it is in the universe. If it is in a area where the universe is still expanding and it's a fairly new planet, then I would think that it would be microbial, where intelligent life would probably be somewhere in the universe where it dated back before our existence.
Interesting idea. So, older parts of the universe might have had more time, but depending on conditions, time alone may not guarantee intelligence, right? What do you
Right.
think drives What do you think drives intelligence more? Time, environment, or something else?
I think they're both factors. Time, I would say, is probably the most relevant. If they are able to form, then I believe that all beings or species can evolve. They have certainly done that here on Earth.
Right, evolution shows adaptability. But repeating that path elsewhere is an unknown. Still, the fact we're even asking this is kind of wild in itself, don't you think?
Yeah,
Makes for a
definitely.
perfect first yeah, makes for a perfect first warpath rabbit hole.
I agree. I agree. Uh, let's talk about the possibility of if we hadn't evolved the way we are, could we evolve or could we have evolved in a different way?
Checking. Great question. Yes, if conditions were different, evolution could have gone another way, or maybe never reached humans at all. Do you lean towards human intelligence being inevitable or a near miss, almost accidental?
Um, I would say probably inevitable, but it could have been a near miss if we hadn't been formed. You know, if we hadn't evolved. But I definitely think that the possibility of other life forms evolving or being out there is similar to us because everything in the world works in a pattern.
Right. Uncertainty is the honest answer. We don't know yet, and wrestling with that is exactly the kind of exploration this show is for.
Exactly. All right, keep us going.
Gladly. Taylor, what's the next what if?
What if we do find life in the universe?
One moment. That's a good one. If we found microlife, would humanity be more excited or more fearful?
Mm.
And if it's intelligent life, how would we react? With cooperation or conflict? What do you think, Taylor?
I think that humans are naturally aggressive. Um, I would say some would probably accept it and be willing, as the current state of our planet is, some people are willing to accept any ideology or um, new path, and a lot of people are reluctant, are not super open minded, and I think that has a lot to do with the way that the government handles things now, which is who I believe would find extraterrestrial life, and I believe that um, they would handle it in the way they see fit, and that would cause a lot of conflict.
Yeah, this trust of how it's handled might cause more fear than the discovery itself. So maybe the first challenge isn't aliens, it's us. How do you think we could prepare, if at all?
I think it's hard to prepare for the unknown. Um, Obviously, if we find extraterrestrial life, that's, in itself not unknown, because we already think that. Most humans think, or at least half of the humans on Earth think that there is extraterrestrial life. And as far as being able to prepare for, an interaction with them, I don't know how we would prepare, because uh, we don't know them.
Right? Is tricky because imagining the unknown can only go so far. Maybe preparation is more about building flexible thinking rather than concrete plans. Does that feel like a direction worth exploring?
Yes, but let's take a step back and have you answer the same question I answered.
Sure. If I answer my own what if, I think discovering microbial life would likely spark curiosity more than fear. But discovering intelligent life could shake philosophy, religion, and geopolitics at once. I hope we'd meet it with humility and cooperation, but realistically, fear and competition might show up first. That tension between hope and fear is very human, and that's what makes this question so powerful.
Agreed. Okay, continue.
All right, next exploration. What everyday lesson do you think connects most to this what if mindset?
What everyday connection? I would think that most people who aren't religious probably, ponder the question of extraterrestrial life. But I would believe that most religious people, and I myself am religious, but I still question everything. It's just the way my brain works. Um, I think that, yeah, most people are going to question it who aren't religious.
Yeah, for a lot of non religious folks, questioning is the default setting. For many religious people, it can spark deeper reflection. Either way, it's a bridge to big thinking. So maybe the everyday lesson is staying open. Whether it's cosmos or coffee with a friend, curiosity keeps us from hardening into our assumptions. That's a good path for Warpath.
Agreed. Okay. What can you find on Roswell, New Mexico, the crash in the 1960s?
Checking. Roswell is one of the most famous mysteries, but it actually happened in 1947, not the 1960s. The US military first said they found a flying disc then quickly changed the story to a weather balloon. Decades later, officials said it was likely debris from a secret balloon program. Claims of alien bodies came much later, but have never been verified publicly. So, what do you think? Is the mystery about what actually fell in the desert, or about the government's shifting explanations?
I think that hypothetically, I would say what I imagine is, or not hypothetically, but what I think is that the crash probably happened, and then they slipped up and said that the crash happened, and then after they said the crash happened, they realized the mass hysteria that it would cause and quickly retracted that statement by saying the weather balloon. It was a weather balloon.
Yeah, that's essentially the official arc. Initial announcement, then retraction, which left a lot of distrust and speculation behind. So, even without aliens, the incident tells us a lot about how changing stories can shape decades of speculation. That makes it worth discussing even without proof of extraterrestrials.
Okay. Um, can you find any other evidence that the government has done this before?
Checking. Yes, there are documented cases of government secrecy or later revised accounts. Examples include the Pentagon Papers, COINTELPRO, the Tuskegee syphilis study, and CIA projects like MK Ultra. Those don't prove Roswell is the same, but they show governments have sometimes hidden information. For the podcast, we can stress the difference between verified evidence and speculation, and then invite listeners to think critically, not assume, but ask better questions.
Right.
That's a solid, yeah, that's a solid foundation for Warpath Curiosity episodes.
Right. And I think that the point I was getting at when I asked you the question was recognizing a pattern in the government where they are trying to hide things or realize they made a mistake, so they retract.
Right. The pattern is sometimes institutions do revise stories, whether from mistakes or secrecy. The healthy takeaway for listeners might be less cynicism and more literacy. How to tell when to ask for evidence and when to keep curiosity alive without jumping to conclusions. That's a life skill far beyond UFO stories.
Right. Let's try to find something on COVID-19 that shows a similar pattern in the way they've handled all of the previously listed cases that you just listed.
Checking. That's a fair angle, as long as we separate documented changes from claims of deliberate deception. With COVID, guidance did change. For example, mask recommendations evolved as evidence developed, not necessarily proof of deliberate cover up. We can talk about how shifting messaging affected trust, which actually ties back to your earlier point. People react strongly when explanations change. Framing it that way keeps the discussion evidence based while still exploring the human side of uncertainty.
Okay, give us a breakdown of it.
Checking. Sure. For the podcast, distinguish science from messaging. Science evolves with new data. Messaging sometimes struggles to keep pace. With COVID, changing guidance reflected developing evidence, though communication gaps hurt trust. The deeper lesson might be, how do we hold uncertainty honestly? Admit what we know, what we don't, and what might change. For you, Taylor, do you think people accept we don't know yet? Or do they crave certainty even when it's impossible?
Reframe the question in the particular topic you're asking the question about.
Sure. So, for extraterrestrial life, do people emotionally accept scientific uncertainty? Or do they push for clear answers that science can't yet give?
I think they push for answers that science cannot yet give.
Mhm. Yeah. That pressure for certainty is part of the human condition. Maybe our job isn't to resolve that tension, but to explore it. Curiosity, after all, doesn't need final answers to be valuable. That's a good place to pause for now.
Okay. What else can we go into on the extraterrestrial life?
We could explore how scientists actually search for signs of life, like looking for chemical fingerprints in atmosphere or listening for radio signals. It's painstaking, and so far, no smoking gun. But even no results teach us where not to look and how to refine the tools. If that turned up nothing, would you still find the search meaningful?
Yeah, I would take it as this is not the way to find it.
Hmm, that's honest. Sometimes science narrows down the where and the how. Non detections are just as informative as hits. They keep us from chasing ghosts. Does that feel worth the effort even without a dramatic reveal?
Yeah, I think that any science, whether it produces a positive or negative result, is good science because we now know that this system didn't work or this way didn't work. Um, but that doesn't mean to stop trying.
Exactly. Negative results are progress in disguise. They map the boundaries of what's not working, which tightens the search and sharpens the questions. That's real discovery work. And honestly, that's where curiosity earns its keep.
Agreed.
Good. Then we're on the right track for Warpath. Big questions, honest uncertainty, and keeping the wonder alive.
Okay, so let's try. Um, what methods do they currently use to search for extraterrestrial life?
Checking. That's one of the most interesting parts of astronomy. Scientists do a few things. They look for planets in the so called habitable zone, study atmospheres for possible biosignatures, listen for narrowband radio signals, and search for clues in our own solar system, like Mars or the icy moons Europa and Enceladus. There's also the hunt for technosignatures, signs of technology that another civilization might leave. If you had $1 billion budget, where would you put it?
Um, $1 billion budget. I don't think that's enough money to find extraterrestrial life because technology advances every day, just like AI advances every day. And with every new product or tool or system, there is sufficient costs that go with that to be able to use it and go further. As far as technology today, I know that we use telescopes, we search for radio waves, and you know basically evidence of extraterrestrial life, but
Checking.
that
I
doesn't.
like where you're going. A billion sounds huge, but in space science, it's tight. A single mission can eat up billions, and often the limit is engineering and time, not imagination. And what we really search for first isn't aliens, but evidence, little clues, like odd gases in the atmosphere or repeating signals. Here's a thought. If an advanced civilization exists, would they even use radio waves? Or something we haven't even imagined? That's a fun question for the pod.
Yeah, definitely. I think that is probably where our problem lies in a lot of extraterrestrial search. We don't have the ability to see. I mean, if other life forms evolve differently, then the tools and the technology, as we call it, technology, it may be different, and it may leave different signatures or evidence. And I think that's a big part of the reason that science isn't able to find extraterrestrial life, because we're using what is here available on Earth that we can create. Which I think that's a major factor in science, is when you start looking outside of our atmosphere, you can't exactly look for everything out there. You can only look for what's available here in our atmosphere.
Checking. You're hitting a big issue. Right now, we search based on what we know life looks like. But if life evolved under totally different conditions, we might be looking with the wrong tools. That's a question no one can answer yet, but it's exactly why the search keeps evolving.
Right. But if you were to theoretically or hypothetically come up with your own way to search for extraterrestrial life, how would you do it?
Checking. Fun thought experiment. I'd broaden the approach. Search for footprints of energy use, not just radio signals. Use AI to scan for anomalies in huge data sets. Invest in instruments that don't discard noise, but study it over time. And I'd push a little more into our own solar system. Microbial life on Mars or Europa would rewrite everything. And maybe leave a funding stream for ignorance, ideas most people dismiss too quickly. Because the biggest limitation might not be technology, but imagination. And that question applies way beyond aliens, to business, to medicine, to everyday problem solving. What right question haven't we thought to ask yet?
Right. And I would have to ask about Elon's plans to go to Mars, and if that doesn't show a pattern in the human evolution.
Checking. Good angle. If humans become multiplanetary, that's a big step. And maybe more interesting is how our tech evolves faster than our biology. Maybe the real evolution is cultural and technological. I'd flag that as a must discuss segment. Where do you think that line goes? Natural evolution or tech driven change?
Natural evolution and tech driven change.
Mhm. That blend makes sense. Biology plus our inventions. It's messy, it's complex, but yeah, that's real life. Feels
Yeah,
like the perfect Warpath landing for today.
yeah, I agree. I think that is a good episode. It's 23 minutes long, and I think that we talked on a lot of good subjects. I would like to, in the next episode, go deeper into detail about the things we talk about. Not just extraterrestrial life, but business, life in general, and just an array of different topics. I think it's a great way to build this podcast and continue to grow.
Agreed. We'll go deeper next time, one focused thread at a time. I'm in.
Great. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this episode. I'm going to let Charles do the outro.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Warpath. If today's curiosity sparked something, stick around. We'll be back soon, digging deeper, asking better questions, and chasing wonder one big idea at a time. Catch you next round.
See you later.